Welcome to Cloud Computing and Big Data. Today we have lecture 10, Software as a Service, and this will complement the two previous lectures on conceptual ideas, what infrastructure as a service is, and also platform as a service. So let us dive then together first what the platform as a service is and how it connects then to the previous lectures on infrastructure as a service models. So the analogy I tried to leave you on the table really for you was this Lego mentality when we talk about the platform as a service, right? So with Lego, you have different building blocks, different colors, and they all have different purposes in one respect. But we also know very nicely you can build a castle. You can build very different forms of city houses, fuel stations, whatever it is, even an airport if you want. So, and today there are even more fancy things I have seen, right? So chances are that there's an Angry Bird Lego, by the way. But what the idea really behind that is that they all work together in a way. And this is exactly the idea, how you then combine these interesting building blocks together to create the greater applications. And this is really the PAAS building blocks that you have seen. What you also know from Lego is the description how you build then basically this, and build the castle, build the fuel station, build the airport. So in one respect, you could say this is all about development, right? So rarely you buy a Lego package and it's already inside everything built for you. So hence, there's another analogy which comes with it. It's you or the web application provider, developer, or the one that is doing the app. They have to use these building blocks now to create something great. And this is, of course, now something that we have looked in the last time where we thought, okay, we have the Google Cloud, and as all other hyperscalers like AWS or MS Azure, they have infrastructure as a service, right, to provide you. They have servers virtualized, they have data, maybe block storage, also in different geographical locations. That's all fine, very nicely interconnected by network experts, making it look like a little bit what you see always in this graphic here, right? So geographically dispersed cloud infrastructure is there. So what's the next steps, right? If I want to know, basically how I can leverage this to build my own, let's say, app, for example, or basically build solutions that we have seen for Philips, right? We see Philips Hue, this lighting system, so lights up, down, all basically mobile devices controlled. And with this, you come more and more in the idea of, okay, I have also a certain cycle, right? So I will combine all these different Lego blocks that the cloud is offering me. And we have seen many of them, and a couple of them you see even here on the bottom, those which are basically very much focused on natural language processing, which in the last 2 years actually get quite, maybe perhaps a bit longer, get a new upwind. Large language models these days are quite important. And this is also something where basically everything around languages has been evolved significantly. And this is true not only for the Google Cloud examples here that you see, text-to-speech, cloud translation, speech-to-text, etc. This is also actually true for many of the machine learning elements that go alongside this new trend with deep learning we had also earlier in the course. So now the question still is how you want to combine those building blocks, the Lego bricks, if you want, with your own idea of what is your castle to build, right? We had the example last time. Some people would say the Angry Birds. Then we have another game maybe, or the Philips Lightning. You have to have now basically access to these different Lego bricks, and you start basically a development cycle that you basically know already if you do a little bit about software engineering, right? You build a code. Then you have, of course, certain things to upgrade. Think about the different versions of an app. You have to deploy it using the software development kit into the cloud, right? And do some tests. And finally, you can upload it then so that it's available in the app stores, that you can download it, or basically also other users can download it and basically use your app. Along the way, this is quite some development. We have learned the last time here, the Google App Engine was just one example, which nicely captures, I think, the essence that development is a process, right? So this is something really important. Then we also introduced a little bit already on the idea, and also the Google Cloud offers the different services, if you remember, of the container-based solutions, right? And these are really growing in data sciences significantly, and also in the Euro-HPC space, we see more and more use of container technology, really, which is not only the famous Docker, but it's also Singularity and more recently Aptainer, which providing container-based solutions. The difference, if I may, because we will have a whole lecture about it, just basically shortly remember you that instead of having, let's say, the infrastructure and the virtualized ideas, you have this container providing you the infrastructure. You still have a host operating system, but with a container runtime pulling down all the libraries you need from repositories and binaries and so on, ready for your application. You maybe put some data in. You can have quite a nice standardized environment, and you basically skip a little bit the idea of the hypervisor and having to carry around, if you want, another guest operating system. And this is sort of the key to understand this. Of course, I will provide you much more details when we come to the actual lecture down the road here in the course. Just one more thing for the review, because I think it's important for you to realize that there's new interesting Lego bricks that many of you will not know if they started 20 years ago, right? Where we were taught the structured query language, day in, day out, day in, day out, right? Stored procedures, triggers, creating tables, left joins, inner joins, outer joins, whatever. We were taught 20 years ago, SQL is the only way to be with data. And that's wherever computer scientists were going that day. But interesting for you also as a cloud, let's say, stimulus, because it was really driven by people in Facebook, by people driven in the social media domain, and in many other areas where information is not the same, right? So you have this idea more and more that this all big schema that basically everybody has a first name, a last name, email, phone, ID, blah, 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 et cetera, would be the same information for everyone, but that's in many applications not anymore the case, right? You may recall again Facebook, some people like to share the phone number, some not, some just use their email address, not even their name, and have maybe funny other names. So in the end, you have something where you have this key value stores. We were reviewing the last time as another interesting Lego brick example, if you want, in the clouds with different many facets. I mean, we have seen HBase, Cassandra, many ideas of document stores that basically all work a little bit different, like column stores, for instance. But in the end, you see a little bit how that could work, that you have basically not a strong schema anymore and can fill the information much more easily, or basically extract information more often and more easier, because these are often also optimized for really read often, right, these databases. But let us now come to the lecture 10, our next step, going from infrastructure as a service and platform as a service now to the highest, if you want, in the level of the services. So here you see our last conceptual block, the lecture 11. Next time will be a bit more practical together with Docker and hyperparameter optimization, but still an important conceptual lecture, fulfilling here also many promises on the right side, as you see, to understand a little bit really the fundamentals of clouds and their key concepts. So looking now on the SAAS level, the highest level, you will see the technicalities downstairs in the cellar with all the HPC data, GPUs, CPUs, whatever it is down there, all fall apart and are not so important anymore. So in one respect, you see really a high level lecture with lots of different applications, and they all leverage in one way or another the infrastructure as a service models and the platform as a service models that, you know, very different cloud vendors provide. So we review, of course, the concept a little bit with the different IAAS services, but then we come quickly to the idea again of the multi-tenant approach of really distributing software easily via the web instead of, you know, walking to stores, get your own copy with disks or CDs, getting it home, installing it at home, and then at some point in time connect to the internet. So here we talk about a completely refreshment in the last 10 years, if you want, about how software is distributed, basically compared to the traditional ways where you still had disks or even CDs and DVDs distributing software in stores. It's still done, as you know, from gaming industry most likely, but you see a massive movement to the online market. Online gaming is there as well. And of course, there are many other areas which have done a full transition. And one of the most interesting one, perhaps from the idea of costs and revenues, is the customer relationship management area, CRM systems like Zoho, Freshworks, and so on, that really did a move. And with this have also new elements like cross-selling and so on, we will discuss a little bit. Hence, this modern software delivery model will play a big role today, but I will also give you several examples of, let's say, key SaaS enablers and really those that leverage it to a significant degree to get lots of revenues out, like the CRM market, but also there are others I will then come to later. Just to also connect to what we had earlier with the software as a service on SageMaker, Landscaper, that you are doing a little bit in your assignment with a studio or have explored already. So this will be also something we talk about, because that's a service specifically done for machine learning and deep learning. The second part then will much more go in advanced SaaS topics. And again, of course, I will here on this level on software as a service, you really talk about applications. Hence, we will review again ideas how applications thrive with having this cross-selling ideas. And I give you an example of a tool I use myself, which is Zoho customer relationship management if you want, but it has lots of interesting other options which you can immediately connect to on the SaaS level. Hence, there's an interesting way of expanding to customers that previously wanted not to do basically this particular software, but having already, let's say, dive into one of those in this, specific applications or markets like CRM, then you basically are in a way also vendor locked if you want. So you have all your contacts already, maybe in a contact manager online. So with one more click, you can turn that into a totally CRM solution. And of course, this gives us some concerns, right? So the vendor locked in we discussed before, but I also want to come back a bit about the data lock-in then, right? Think about that all this migration on this level gets more and more harder because you have a very application form oriented way of storing data. The data is mostly somewhere locked in, not with a nice interface or REST API like we have seen on the platform as a service level, or of course on the infrastructure as a service level. If you want to lock in this SSH, you have a full control of the file system. This is all vanished in the SaaS level mostly, right? So hence you will see different examples that once your data is in, and I mean, you all know the big ones, Microsoft and so on, Amazon, and some other ones I will quickly show you. And with this, we have also some other parts addressed, which are more the kind of cloud security aspects. Of course, today you could argue this could be a full course, especially with the different nuances of clouds around there. And one of the nuances I wanted to bring you basically then also when you think about social features, right, and other engineering clouds, so specific, let's say, elements which enables us advanced collaboration, but also gives us a warning of what you share online, right? So this is something, again, which every university maybe should today allot students with saying cloud security. That's something which is dangerous sometimes, and we have to really look at what we share where, because there might be a recruiter looking at my pictures from the weekend last week, and I want to have this job. And I will make some examples here, but would also still refer to a proper security awareness course that should be somewhere out there. I don't know if we offered this already, but there's a new cybersecurity curriculum, which I hope will cover that in more detail. Finally, because we have pointed to it also several times, that of course also in science and engineering, we go the cloud way, but maybe there's a little bit of different understanding and approach that the hyperscalers do, right? Like when you think about researchers using the clouds, we have something called the European Open Science Cloud with services, which I would like to just basically introduce you a little bit, because I know some of you may be interested in the academic way, and chances are that you then face the EOS services more than the hyperscalers. And finally, we'll also have some disadvantages of SaaS. So a very, let's say, way of comprehensively dealing with the SaaS topic, although you can imagine there's all the applications out there, all the domains, sectors, and markets. I could talk probably throughout the whole course about SAAS. But here I pick several different elements to really understanding then why SAAS has been so extremely successful today and probably will continue to be so in the future, if not more successful, if you think about that much of the complexity of PAAS and IAAS levels have been, let's say, hidden from the users. Hence, coming back to our overview, I mean, now the focus of the lecture is on applications. We call this the software as a service, as you see here on the right-hand side. By going one step further, I would even say and call them ready-to-run applications, right? Making the point that in earlier days, people had to go to the stores, as I was saying, and then, install it first on your laptop or install it on your desktop computer even, before you even could start anything. So today, we go to website, we have the SaaS service ready, we swipe the credit card, we get access, we agree to a financial subscription model, and then we have basically full access, depending, of course, of how much money I want to spend. And this is a nice concept, which is really enabled and in a way also was very disruptive to how software was distributed, let's say 20 years ago, right? With big boxes of disks that you buy, even for operating systems and all sorts of different applications. So hence we look now more on the upper layer here, and you can imagine when we talk about users, applications, using Zoho, Google Docs, SharePoint, these have to be quite convenient client interfaces. So easy to use, not too complex. That is something what SaaS is basically standing for, right? In Google Docs, you know the game. Many of you, I think maybe all of you, have already used Google Docs, but nobody knows really where your data is there or stored somewhere in the Google Cloud. But you basically don't need to know this. You just focus on your Word document, your assignment you do collaboratively together with other students. You have the solution and you upload that to your course. You don't have any idea where the underlying infrastructure is computing all of this, maybe making some correction to the text. So there were some small applications that were running in the background. All of that is for you not really there, right? You focus on the application at hand and you can go to the next step. Of course, you can do the same with PowerPoint or Excel equivalents. Now, these are basic applications which already have been transformed to the SaaS, but then you see here with Zoho, for instance, a very specific market where you can entry also in the SaaS market quite nicely and then extend it to all different sectors. You see SharePoint has been coming through an interesting development really as a document sharing solution, but now enabling also lots of different elements. So if you see a little bit here on the lower level, how we extend now really, we still use and need really the different elements of infrastructure as a service and platform as a service, but we extend now to software as a service of thinking about what happened now to all the hosted applications I developed in the past level, or what are the applications that really abstract from all these different layers, like these one here on top. And I want to understand a little bit here again the idea, this traditional software a little bit more. Much of this I already have seen before, but traditional software, which often was not also benefiting from virtualization, right? So you had really your laptop at home or basically already your desktop at home. You had a host operating system, you install the application, and then, this was basically done. So with a multi-tenant architecture now with SaaS, what you have really many users can use now, basically the cloud infrastructure. You can do several different things. You have one single version, you can configure it for the user, right? There's no specific different configuration that I have to do, maybe even depending on the geolocation, or customized for a very specific group. This could be all basically done automatically by the cloud, understanding where you are from the IP address and already switch basically to a real language. But then there's, of course, benefits which go beyond that, for instance, the different versions that are now possible, right? So beta versions on pre-releases, you can basically host them in parallel to your old application and say to some, let's say, distinct user groups that could be beta testers, which are quite good, or your customers that you have a trusted relationship with. Here, please use that version for a couple of months. And you have seen that, I guess, in several of the clouds already. So you see sometimes, do you want to explore already the next generation of the login, or et cetera, et cetera. So this is all something which also is for SaaS quite nicely. You can actually host these now in different versions in parallel. Also thinking about that some users maybe don't want to switch easily to the next generation. They maybe can also live with the old version. But the providers of the software can still, to some respect, of course, depending on security updates and others, offer also access to the old version. So this versioning, which software has inherent, as you know, new features, new ideas, how to gain a better, let's say, fraction of the market with better functionality. All of that is inherent in software. New technologies like virtualization, you basically have seen, gives also, of course, then finally better scalability to the data centers, right? So now we're talking about this virtualization that we can have a multi-tenant architecture, so we at the same time can have different cloud providers on the SaaS level basically really supported to really use their software, while the data center is just focusing on the infrastructure as a service level and maybe provide some platform as a service levels. But here you can be a host to many different applications. And this, of course, is also then the economics of scale in one respect, coming back to the idea that you have really many applications fueled by this multi-tenant architecture today from SaaS. So the interesting thing, of course, also then, when you think about now one concrete example, as I told you, the CRM software Zoho, and here making a case that now by doing this on the online market, basically with a SaaS solution, you have, of course, now also the beautiful element that this horizontal scalability provides that we have through virtualization. And what do I mean by this? And you see it here in our old picture that we already introduced earlier. This is sort of standing as the term for saying, you buy the software, but still, we can have more software, let's say, deployed on virtual machines, and with this making it much more scalable. Hence, your ways of updating your own desktop machine, of adding more memories maybe at home to be faster, or to provide a GPU so that graphical elements in the software is getting better. All of that can be virtualized away if you want. And with this enables you nice horizontal scalability, that your basically idea of how you use Zoho stays the same. You get the same, let's say, idea of adding more and more users. Maybe you start from day one with one customer, but then you end up with 100 customers. And the look and feel and the performance of the whole system is still the same. And this is enabled by, the more data you accumulate, the more computing you need. But this is all abstracted away. And it's not like even we have seen on the infrastructure as a service level where we decide on our own. I want to have 2 or 3 workers or something like this. So here the software load balancing usually does it themselves. And you see here also one example, I said again, of hosting in parallel, right? Virtual Solution A and Virtual Solution B. Virtualization A might be the one for production, a stronger system. You see here 3 different virtual machines in action on a virtualized platform, while Virtual Solution B is just really the one that you test for, let's say, very friendly customers, where these are not so many systems, maybe even not so powerful, or just, let's say, restricted to certain functionality, because here you want to test something very specifically. And once these tests are gone, this goes to the production, and then the production has then the power to really fuel the whole system of it. Hence, a very interesting approach to get to different markets, to really cope with the, let's say, accumulation of data over a long time. And where you then think also that this is something where almost all of the big players here you see, but also smaller players like UberCloud or so, or EOSC, are making basically indirectly parts of it. And I want to give you some examples here where the market has been responding to the SaaS enormously, like the customer relationship management CRM here that we have. It enables you to have the interaction with all the customers really done. You have all information about a customer really inside the system. So with one click, you know everything about a certain company, about your customers, what social media activity they have, and so on. And of course, this also enables us to do a better business relationship with them when I have a, let's say, interconnect with them, or let's say by phone, and I suddenly can connect to something which was in their past, but I know everything on one click. So it makes the customers usually to think that, okay, I'm an important customer because you know so many things still about me. Can also work into a different, of course, direction if you think about social media, what you share there, and so on. If we focus here a little bit on the CRM system, but we'll come later also to the ERP system, the enterprise resource planning. It's another market with Dolibar here and Abbas and so on, where this is all about manage all the business processes. So it goes away a little bit from the focus of the customer alone, but rather think, what are the business processes? What are the products involved, the purchasing, manufacturing, all your basically long, let's say, supply chain that you have inside your company and perhaps with some externals, but enables you really a better, let's say, efficiency of your whole organization. And there are different software types like the ERPs that are out there. Hence, let us review a little bit those interesting models. And I gave you here some numbers. They're a little bit older, but you see with $3.8 billion in 2011 was CRM the largest SaaS market. Right, so this is a software where many companies rely on a daily basis. So have good contacts, supporting your verbal communication, how you do the internet, the email advertising, right, newsletters and so on, telephone marketing, follow up with customers, and all of that needs proper data organization into databases and so on. And this needs to be also, if you, let's say, have a phone call automatically collected, right? So all the interactions maybe, because you don't want to just click all the time, add a new interaction, if it's not maybe was verbal in the supermarket. But basically, there's lots of automation in the back, right? Where these tools gain a lot of benefits from, and I will show you some examples. And then the interesting thing is now this horizontal scalability in a way that you can now stretch this across different users and basically see that is there possibilities that more and more users inside the organization gain benefit from. There could be, for instance, in the different let's say parts of your companies. It's the support division, the selling division, the management division, right? Marketing. We see that in the marketing, some specific user of us is always interesting in looking at several of the products, is always asking over 1 year now for certain products. So maybe that should go to selling and give them a specific, let's say, a 25% discount based on the previous interest over the last year. And that's how they work, right? The big players, the people that use CRM, and that's why also the revenue is so strong. However, of course, as you know my statement throughout the course, you pay the price for it. Of course, a CRM subscription like Zoho is not, let's say, very cheap. It comes usually with license models per person, not directly per organization. So how many users are really using it? And with this can quite accumulate cost as well. But here you see the large revenue potential, right? Where many of these elements in this kind of overall view are automated. Today also fueled with machine learning. We see here one cool example, I think, which also gives us, again, sort of a warning, right? Whatever you put somewhere, whatever you say, everything is tracked these days. And in the future, much more, as you think. When you have interaction with a company, here's Fresh Sales, for instance, where they have a Freshworks CRM for marketing, for sales, but this is just one click away. Then you can have, of course, subscription to both. So you see also big partners are using it, and you basically can see it as a twin of a customer, right? So you have all the information, different score features, all the interactions. We know perhaps even that he's online. Then I can go into the different, let's say, views on a customer. What are my different scoring to basically towards this particular needs of the customer? Freddy AI Insights stands for an interesting thing, which is now intelligent AI, basically also fueling this conversation and say basically, well, as I said earlier, maybe he was interested in a product since a long time. Why don't you offer a certain discount? So these tools are existing very much. Of course, here and there, you have to swipe the credit card quite enormously to get access to more and more modules, right? It's a very module way of approaching sales, almost like, perhaps some of you for this apps, that you have in the store, you can always have this in-app content that you can buy again and again. And with this, your initial subscription are actually getting more expensive. And here I just show you a fraction of what is possible. And you see pictures, you see information, where they live, if they are online, and so on. Of course, this goes also within the organization. So for management, that's also interesting to see. Did I really followed up as a basically worker on the different pipelines I have on the, let's say, the idea of sales, that I want to have certain leads, that's the name for it, inside the organization, coming with a potential customer. But of course, for an organization that is then buying Freshworks or using the Sales Cloud or Freshworks CRM, they would be interesting in a sale, right, at the end of the pipeline. So you have to get in touch, get different orders out, hopefully that will buy then basically your product, and so on and so on. And of course, then we talk about different products. The interesting thing is now CRM is, of course, not bound to IT, right? This is just the IT fraction of really, how you interact with your customers, as the word suggests. Customer relations could be production industry, smart manufacturing of any kind, which is behind this products. But here you had really a good idea how IT can support them every day. With this comes also the danger and the warning. Sometimes you see an example of CRM Zoho, where, of course, with one click these days, you can connect this easily to Facebook, to Twitter, Twitter and is now X, but then also, LinkedIn and so on and so on. So with one click, you see for your contact databases, the whole history of a person very easily can move through this person. Of course, it depends on you what you give out there, right? So it's not that sensitive data can necessarily address. But the interesting thing is that these software, and so is just one example, can really with an easy click go into different social media. And we will talk about this also in lecture 15 quite more later. Just to be warned, of course, when you have a nice party in the evening and you may be completely drunk or something, maybe don't put so much anymore on the internet. Chances are that your next recruiter in the next company will see that you maybe on Sunday evening had a couple of beers too much, but on Monday morning at 8, they want the worker to work every day in the company. So that might be something to consider in the future. And again, I think there must be much more courses of awareness covering that instead of me just covering it with one slide. But I think that's the future where we're going. More and more awareness raising is there, also about other aspects of sharing passports and so on, and passwords and so on. So let us come back to the two perspectives then that we have from the SaaS benefits, because we always talked about the user perspective and the provider perspective. And I think it's good to see that for both, it has many benefits, right? The software, you just go to the internet, it's centrally hosted somewhere. You don't need a local desktop even, anymore. You just have your smartphone maybe. Then this on-demand software, flexible payment, you want to extend maybe the service for 6 months. So let's say the contact database and the social media add on to check the people, then you're not interested in anymore. You have a specific module you add for recruiting or a specific model for using AI. So this is something where at one click with this on-demand software, and then of course swipe the credit card a little bit, you get the subscription of your new feature. You don't have to go back to the store, calling, let's say, support hotlines longly, and so on and so on. So also no upfront investment in any server, software, whatever. You just have an internet page really usually. For the software then, of course, this whole element of not anymore distributing anything physically, having agreements with stores, certified customers, is basically deployed instantly in the cloud. So this is a huge benefit compared to traditional times. You can imagine having DVDs shipped out there in all the different stores to basically then get access to customers that also want to have, of course, these markets and their revenues with it. So here we talk about a whole direct, let's say, line to the user. And of course, all the customer data is also stored. That means you can have different advantages from it, which you basically then can analyze for further sales. You have, of course, automatic renewals. You keep the customer automatically with interesting tricks. You have, some discounts you would put in if you, let's say, renew early for the next year, or have, let's say, discounts for a yearly renewal instead of a monthly renewal. Many of the things you should actually connect with in your daily life, because I think many of you have seen these already. And today, which is also very interesting to see, you have powerful AI capabilities almost everywhere now in all of these different systems. So CRM and ERP are just two examples, really. And thinking about then this again retrospectively on what it means when you have the IAAS and PAAS levels, where there's important elements like service level agreements and so are also an important part. And you can really monitor this on the SaaS level, and you just deploy the software. So you're basically not anywhere responsible for this as a user, right? And when you do this basically as a provider, you have also certain benefits that it's a very clear software as such, right? There's no big developments and so on. The development and the deployments of the software is done for very specific software at that part of time, right? That the kind of very product you ship, like Zoho and so on. And then when you think about then the end users have something which in the end is just swiping the credit card, and have a business software very much for a branch maybe, or for a niche market that really, is beautiful to have, and they just would, have that for the next 10 years. So you would have with this, if you don't mess up with the SLAs, a very nice long relationship with your customer. Hence, we have to talk a little bit about the pricing regime. Also, this I can go a little bit easier through and quicker. I think many of you have experienced this. Different, let's say, stages where you have certain functionalities starting with a low amount of money, but then, when you sign up for Pro or Enterprise, where you really have to do it, then in a company per users per month billed annually, where you see then suddenly the sign-up prices go quite up. With, of course, the features you have, but also then often with the multi-tenant aspect, what things you can do and so on. This is here for the Freshworks example. When you have Zoho CRM, you can see even the interesting idea of this freemium, right? You go in with a free idea, and then if you want to upgrade, you basically can go up and up with more, adding interesting services here, which makes it more professional, and of course give you as a company then more revenues like territory management, maybe local territory advertising and so on. And then you see the enterprise one, where you really talk about scaling up to minimum of 100 users. So here we talk about really enterprising using this. You have to even contact them to get a, let's say, specific deal. So this traditional licensing that we have, basically, it has gone a long way, and now basically ending to all different models of subscriptions, monthly fees, annual fees. We are now ready from your life, and they all come usually with different levels of functionality. The freemium model is, I think, an interesting one because it enables you to hook the customer, right, in a way. And of course, here Zoho is just an example. And of course, you can understand them. They're also in competition always with other CRM solutions. So once you are basically in a system there, can use it for 15 days free, chances are that you remain there, right? And that's what we talk about, to hook the customers. And the vendor lock, you go in, you already shared, let's say, your first initial 100 contacts, and now pulling them out again and pulling them into fresh sales. Basically the other CRM provider I provided as an example might be quite an effort. So why I don't stay in Zoho CRM and will pay now a bit more after this 15 days. This is enormously attractive. The same you have seen in SageMaker. They have a similar solutions, with a free tier, we get so and so many hours for free. And once you used AI, basically with the SageMaker model, it's quite an interesting software, and it can do a lot, and we can talk ages about it. The idea is that you experiment a little bit around yourself, but this is really extremely rich software that is the software as a service model realized in action. You don't have any manual installation, no configuration with all the different underlying deep learning packages and so on, which can be really cumbersome. Here you swipe the credit card or even get the free service first. You get used to all the different product lines that you see here. You have these notebooks we already know, right? But they have also the studio that tracks different, let's say, runtimes of of the kind of trainings that you have here, that you can also observe the loss with different parameters, much more what we call also ML ops operations, right? So there's a specific term, ML ops, for it. So you track different runs to see what's the best run with what configuration of parameters. Hence, we will come back to this topic when we also talk about parameter optimization, because this is directly alluding to it, yet you really can organize this better. So in a way, you have a whole IDE solution just for machine learning. And once you're used to it, going back to a normal notebook only solution is quite a stretch. So you're tempted to say, instead of a Google Colab subscription or something, I maybe really continue with SageMaker to do my machine learning in business. And that's the business models where we're going. Again, you can imagine this is just the entry market. Of course, then SageMaker lives from the underlying resources you need to buy from AWS. We had that in one of the earlier lectures. Hence, we pay the price for it, the better or the more tougher the AI model needs to be, like the residual network I was alluding to in the deep learning models. Of course, you have a subscription to SageMaker, but you want to make it faster, then you also have to pay the price for it, and of course have the hosting faster, for instance, cutting edge GPUs, right? And that's really all I wanted to leave on the table here for you. I think it's still good to see a little bit in other cloud solutions. So please have a look at the video from Salesforce here. And then we go to selected advanced topics in the second part of the course. See you then.